our long-range team, me, you, have been looking at this pattern during the first week of September, and I should say December. And again, we've been talking about that this is going to be the coldest period, not only so far this winter, but probably the entire month of December.
That's the way it looks, and our team has been stressing that well ahead of all other sources so that people can be prepared for a big shock to the system. It's going to feel like January across much of the central and eastern part of the United States during that first week of December, and then we're going to be dealing with significant lake effect snow. It's going to pile up to the tune of multiple feet. And then we'll still be watching this pattern, Bernie, because as we've been highlighting, when the pattern shifts, especially late the first week of December, watch for a coastal storm. More on that in a minute.
All right, let's talk about the cold air. Listen, it's the classic setup. We've got the cold air, very cold air, January cold air over very warm water. You get a huge temperature difference between the warm lake temperatures and the air aloft, and then the snow really starts to fly. It's mostly going to be into the northwest snow belts, John, and your team issued this map here today. Going over the accumulations, we'll have a zoom in the moment, but this is a classic setup for feet of snow.
It sure is classic, and especially want to point out one of the other factors here is that water of the Great Lakes is running above the historic average. Temperatures are higher. That's due in part due to climate change, so that means that that's going to really amplify some of these bands of heavy snow. The snow can come down at a rate of 2 to 3 inches per hour. And that is going to result in some road closures. And we want to highlight, especially during this time of very significant travel, people who are maybe not as familiar with dealing with these heavy bands of snow are going to be encountering this, especially along parts of Interstate 90 from Cleveland to Buffalo. And in fact, some parts of this interstate may be closed at times. Also going to be dealing with Interstate 86. Across western New York, there can be some road closures there. I-81 between Syracuse and Watertown as well, and Interstate 79 across northwestern Pennsylvania. So we want people to be aware of that. And remember, there was that very tragic blizzard in Buffalo back in 2022. And after that, the state and local governments there enacted many changes to their procedures with regard to travel bans and travel restrictions. So expect that Erie County and also perhaps New York State, they may be more proactive with travel restrictions. Be aware of that if you're traveling in those areas.
And even in areas like Binghamton, Elmira, north of Interstate E in Pennsylvania, this is a different air mass. Snow's been melting on the roads so far that's fallen. This is going to be different because it's a much colder air mass. All right, John, waves of cold, and it's that last wave that we're worried about. But boy, you could just see the cold air just coming in waves beginning this weekend. And although we've been talking about the Northeast, look at that shot of cold air coming in early next week, all the way into the southeast.
Yeah, that's going all the way down to Interstate 10 here. So Atlanta temperatures in the 20s. Again, that's why we're talking about a major shock to the system here across the central and eastern part of the United States. Be ready for some cold.
We want to direct your attention to the last shot of cold air. This will be as we get into the middle and latter half of next week. And it's going to set up a situation that we have to really keep an eye on along the eastern seaboard.
It will, because you notice how intense that last surge of cold air is that's going to be rolling in that northwest flow. A storm system can develop in the south. The question will be, does it work out to sea, at which point it wouldn't be much of a threat? But if it turns up the coast, and this is down in that time period between December 7th and 11th, so a long way out, but if it turns up the coast, it's going to be cold enough for snow and ice all the way down to the coast. So that could bring a risk to Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. Stay tuned to AccuWeather. We'll be monitoring this in the coming days.
AccuWeather Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Porter. John, thanks for joining us here on AccuWeather Early.